But our guest presenter tonight is broadcaster and author Reddy Hlabi. She joins me now for a preview. I know you're going to be very comfortable. You weren't lying in bed thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to ask people?
Well, it's amazing how it always feels like the first time, right? Yes, yeah. So I'm back home like you because this is where you started as well. You were there with ETV many years ago. But it's good to be back, but also talking about an issue that I'm sure is also close to your heart. We're talking about gender-based violence, the gender pay gap. We're talking about the total shutdown tomorrow where South African women are going out into the streets to make their voices heard. It's an intersectional march, which I think is a first for South Africa, and I look forward to being a part of it.
And South Africans are really getting into the groove of marching, aren't they? I mean, they're understanding the power of getting onto their streets and making the message known.
There are a lot of people who are cynical about protest action and marches, but I think that we fight a battle from many angles, including the symbolic aspect of it. If we're all out there in our hundreds of thousands and we all saying one thing, I think it does drive the message home. And we can go back to different corners, whether in corporate or NGO sector, and really go and do battle. But I think from time to time, there are occasions that warrant us taking to the streets in solidarity. And I think the students, the fees must fall, were very impressive. We can debate the methods, the mechanisms, but they were united regardless of which political affiliation they identified with. They were out there on a common cause, and that's what tomorrow's march is all about.
And I think it's that thing that gets people noticing, like the Me Too campaign, the hashtag Me Too. Do you think this is a tipping point for women at the moment and in South Africa when it comes to gender-based issues? Is there a light?
Yes and no. I do feel that we've had our Me Too moments so many times, precisely because sexual violence is so endemic in South African society. Look at Fezeka Kuzwayo, the woman about whom I wrote, the woman who laid charges against Jacob Zuma, otherwise known as Kwezi. That should have been a tipping point for us. How we were able to carry on as a nation is still exasperating, if you ask me. But we've had so many Me Toos. But I'm not criticizing the global Me Too moment. I just feel that wherever we can get our voices amplified and create solidarity, let it be so. However, Jane, I must say that I'm sensing a certain level of restlessness and impatience, especially amongst young women activists. They're not having it. They don't care for authority. They're not about to be intimidated by violent masculinity. So yes and no. We've had the tipping point, so many moments. There were so many opportunities lost precisely because we were overwhelmed. But I'm just sensing that our young feminists, our youth activists are just adding a level of energy that we haven't seen before.
Okay, hot topic, and I'm glad you're dealing with it.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. New dawn or dark times, Zimbabweans will know soon enough who will lead their country. Officials are finalising the results of this year's historic polls. That's expected to be announced later tonight. Duduzile Ramela is in Bulawayo, keeping a close eye on developments there. She joins us now live. What do you know about when we're going to get the results and how it's looking?
Results are slowly trickling in, Jane. Perhaps let me start here and walk you through the day. It's the 31st of July. That means it's month end for a lot of people. And you'd ordinarily get your money in your bank account. But when you come here today, we saw long queues, especially when it came to pensioners. Some coming out from rural areas to come into Bulawayo to try and draw cash from the banks. Snaking queues, and people worried that they're not going to get their money. As they get to the door, they get told there's not enough money because we do know that there's cash shortages. So you really do get a sense of how desperate the situation is in the country. In terms of vote counting, we have had two announcements by the Zimbabwean Electoral Commission a little bit earlier on this evening, announcing the 7 out of 201 constituencies that are there. They have announced those results, and ZANU-PF taking 6 out of those 7. And just a few minutes ago, when we came out to do this crossing, Jane, the ZEC was also giving another briefing in terms of the results. By all indications, ZANU-PF is in the lead in terms of the parliamentary votes. Now, those are people that will represent ZANU-PF in Parliament. There'll be members of Parliament. Interesting, in Gutu South, that is Nelson Chamisa's hometown, the ZANU-PF taking that parliamentary seat. In the Midlands, where Emerson Mnangagwa hails from, in the town of Zwishabani, in the village rather of Zwishabani, a ZANU-PF candidate also taking that parliamentary seat. So for now, Jane, by all indications, in terms of Parliament, that is ZANU-PF being in the lead. We do know that the rural vote is the biggest vote here. Over 60% of the voters are coming from rural areas. Where we are in Bulawayo, this accounts for 5% of the vote. So when those results coming, it will be interesting to see who actually takes that vote. Huge difference between the rural voter and the urban voter, as well as their expectations, Jane.
Right, we sadly lost your light there, but we're going to carry on with the interview. Just tell me about the expectations now. This is a very important period, is it, until we get the final count, until we know who the winner is. How's it feeling from an expectation point of view and a security point of view?
In terms of an expectation point of view, talking to people on the ground, desperate for something different, desperate for something else, saying that it's been a long time of no progress. So they do expect that they will have someone new. Well, that is the urban voters, and that's where we are in Bulawayo. A totally different picture when it comes to the rural areas, Jane. There, people voting very differently. In terms of dynamics, we're still trying to figure out what are some of those sticking issues. Speaking to some analysts a little bit earlier on, saying that with the rural vote, it's mostly the land issue that has made people to vote in a certain way. And here in urban areas, people really getting why a change is needed in terms of their everyday needs and life just going smoothly for the ordinary Zimbabwean here in the country.
Thank you, Duduzile Ramela. Let's Have It Out is next. Join me again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. That's it for tonight. Thanks for watching.